Well, good morning to you all on Monday, the 27th of August. A magnificent memorial service yesterday at the Kokoda Track Memorial Walkway at Concord in Sydney, honouring those who fought remarkably, courageously and selflessly, virtually for Australia's future in the Battle of Isurava. However, don't expect to read about this anywhere today or even see it on your television news. How anything could be more important than recalling this battle, which virtually changed the face of Australia, how anything could be more important than that, I have no idea. I wonder, do Australians really know what happened at the Battle of Isurava 65 years ago yesterday? Put simply, if Gallipoli was our first military test as a new nation, the Kokoda and subsequent New Guinea campaign was the first time that Australia's security had been threatened directly. Remember this. At the time, Papua New Guinea was an Australian protectorate. So Kokoda saw Australians fight and die, repelling a Japanese invader on Australian soil without the presence or the support of anyone, certainly not of the United Nations. And we were unprepared, not just unsupported. It's here that the 39th Infantry Battalion became legendary. It's said that if the Battle of Gallipoli forged an Anzac spirit, then Kokoda surpassed that spirit and even saved it. Had that campaign been lost, Australia and the Australian people may well have faced invasion. This is a story of extraordinary heroism by Australian diggers who drove back a much larger and better equipped Japanese army under conditions of not believable hardship. This is where the Fuzzy Wuzzy Angels were born. They were our only support. They were our indentured labour. Without Papua New Guinea's Fuzzy Wuzzies, our diggers would have been defeated. That is a matter of historical fact, and they've never been acknowledged. No medal has ever been hung around their necks. They were not paid to carry our wounded along the tracks. There was no medical evacuation system. When they came across our wounded diggers who could no longer make their way, these selfless young men made stretchers out of rough material and picked them up. The 39th Infantry Battalion was described as being made up of pathetically young warriors. All they had around them was a threatening jungle filled with well-positioned Japanese mountain artillery and mortars. 65 years ago yesterday afternoon, these young men trekked into Isurava. The situation was perilous. The 2nd 14th Battalion took over from the 39th, but the 39th refused to withdraw, refused to be relieved. They remained to add numbers. The onslaught began and intensified. These Australians, 65 years ago yesterday, began a resistance against countless attacks, and with mates falling dead and wounded around them, they ignored weariness and injury to fight on. Australia's official historian of this campaign, Dudley McCarthy, wrote of Isurava, "It's the story of small groups of men, infinitesimally small, against the mountains in which they fought, who first conquered the country and then allied themselves with it, and then killed or died in the midst of a great loneliness." Isurava was one of the bloodiest battles on the Kokoda Track, but it both delayed the Japanese forces by 14 days and inflicted heavy losses on them. Yesterday, in a wreath-laying ceremony attended by New South Wales Premier Yema, Mr Rusty Priest, AM, the chairman of the Kokoda Track Memorial Walkway, and with a commemorative address delivered by the Vice Chief of the Defence Forces, Lieutenant General Ken Gillespie, 1,000 people remembered the extraordinary hardship on the Kokoda Track in 1942, endured by those historians call the men who saved Australia. Worth remembering, I would have thought. I'm Alan Jones.